What is up? It is Logan from What's It To Ya. How are you all doing? I want to talk to you today about Solo, a Star Wars story, which came out last month, weeks ago. The reason why I want to talk about it, even though I saw it a few weeks ago, I had a lot of stuff happen. My life changed drastically. Unfortunately, it wasn't by my choice, but things are looking up. My eyes are looking forward. Brush it off and just move on. But I want to talk to you about Solo a Star Wars story. But the main topic I want to touch on about is whether or not Solo a Star Wars story has social justice warrior propaganda. Now, let me make it clear. I am a staunch anti-SJW. Some of what SJWs say has legitimate grievances. They have legitimate grievances, so I'm not denying that. I just think a lot of them take it too far, like the stereotype, like the purple-haired feminist, or the feminists that paint themselves in period blood, or the you're white male privileged, and they just berate you and they don't let you speak. I'm not talking about that. That's what I'm talking about. And I want to talk about the boycott of Solo a Star Wars story, because there was a boycott going on, still is. As we all know, Solo is the worst performing Star Wars movie at the box office. They actually lost money. Well, let me take that back. They didn't actually lose money. They made a profit. They made their budget back, plus a little bit. They just didn't make what they projected what they were going to make, so they count that as a loss, which is unfortunate. To be fair, Solo wasn't a movie that we wanted, especially after The Last Jedi. Maybe Solo would have been a nice movie later on. It came out too soon after The Last Jedi. I think they would have had better success if they had released it in December. Anyway, that doesn't matter because it's past the point. I want to talk about part of the boycott, which is because people, especially anti-SJWs, felt as if Solo was gonna be riddled with SJW propaganda. So I want to talk about that. As somebody who's an anti-SJW, let's talk about that. The Last Jedi was filled with some SJW propaganda. For me, the SJW elements didn't ruin the movie for me. It was The Last Jedi itself as a story, as a sequel to The Force Awakens, that ruined it for me. Solo, on the other hand, it's only riddled with SJW propaganda if you think the entire Star Wars series is riddled with SJW propaganda. And the reason why I say that is because Solo, Star Wars story, hasn't added anything new politically that other Star Wars movies or lore hasn't already touched upon. So let me go through the list, okay? Well, first, let me go through the list. There will be spoilers, so be warned. One of the things that people complained about was the droid, that it seemed like a manly woman, that's sort of gender fluid. And to me, I say, okay, that's not the first time we've seen that, though, because we've seen C3PO, C3PO, that was a really male-oriented droid. And plus, droids are robots, so we're assuming that they have a sex or have a gender. So I didn't see that. All I saw was a droid that was kind of thick in some ways. It was a thick woman that was sassy. That's not anything we haven't seen in Star Wars. Like I said, we saw C3PO, who was basically a submissive man, a beta male. We saw that. And the ideal man to most people isn't a beta male, it's an alpha male. Like, I can't remember the one from Rogue One, but that droid. That was a hilarious droid. So let's move on. They talk about discrimination at the bar. They talk about, like, Jim Crow type stuff. But not really. The Jim Crow reference was the droid. I can't remember the droid's name for the life of me. The one in Solo. But she walks into the cantina or whatever where Lando's at. And the bartender looks at the droid and says, "We don't serve your kind here." So some people are like, "Oh, Jim Crow, how many times do we have to hear about this?" But that's not new to Star Wars. That was in Episode 4. In Star Wars Episode 4, when Luke, Ben Kenobi, C-3PO and R2-D2 walk into the cantina. The bartender looks at them and says, "We don't serve your kind here." That's not anything new to Star Wars. So, if you got upset about that, or if that's what you're afraid of, or whatever, yeah, we've seen it before. It's not that bad. It's consistent with the Star Wars universe. The next thing was, one of the writers said that Lando Calrissian was a pansexual. Understand that that's also not anything we haven't seen in Star Wars before. We've seen that in Star Wars. Understand that this writer that said that Lando was a pansexual, he or she, I don't remember, they were projecting their own politics onto an existing story. Let me explain the pansexual part. They tease the idea that maybe Lando Calrissian has a thing for the droid. We know that Lando Calrissian was close to this droid, but we don't know if there's any sexual relationship, but they kind of hint, like the droid mentions that she thinks that Lando is into her. But we also see him kind of flirt with, I can't remember her name either. I forgot all of their names because it's been weeks since I've seen it, and I've seen it once. Basically Han Solo's love interest. I think Lando kind of flirts with her in the same way he did Princess Leia. But yeah, that's the closest you get to pansexual. And again, if you want to know what pansexual is, I looked it up because I had no idea what it is. It's basically what you're sexually attracted to. It doesn't matter their gender or sexual orientation or whatever. You're basically attracted to anything. That's apparently what that means. We've seen this in Star Wars already. If you watch in the background, and in all of Star Wars lore, there's always been references to interspecies mingling. Species have mingled. It's basically interracial, but in Star Wars. So, like I said, Solo a Star Wars story didn't add any SJW elements that the other Star Wars movies or expanded universe hasn't already. Oh, and one more thing. They do talk about slavery, kind of, because this takes place, obviously, after Episode 3, and you go to this planet that's controlled by the Empire, and all the Wookiees are enslaved. Which we kind of assumed would have happened, considering we saw the end of Revenge of the Sith after Order 66, when the clone troopers were defending the droid attack on the Wookiees. Can't forget about that. And then the clone troopers basically turn on the Jedi, which were close with the Wookiees. And pretty much from there, the Wookiees were enslaved. Again, this isn't anything new to Star Wars lore, Star Wars the expanded universe, Star Wars the main films. It's actually a direct playoff of a storyline from the prequel trilogy. These are things that we've seen in Star Wars before. So bottom line, Star Wars is not riddled with SJW propaganda. Also, for a quick review on Solo a Star Wars story, it's not amazing. I feel like I have to say it's not amazing just because I'm expected to not say every movie I've ever seen was amazing. I thought Solo a Star Wars story was a fun movie. I thought it was great. I actually cared about the characters. I don't think it's better than Rogue One. I think Rogue One was a better movie story-wise and visually. With that being said, one thing that Solo has that Rogue One didn't have was character development. You actually care about these characters. And I know you can say there's no, you know that Han Solo is going to live, so there's no, tension. You're not afraid for the character to die. But they make you care about him and afraid for him in different ways. So I thought it was a fun story. Even though it wasn't something that I really wanted to see, I was excited for it. I can't remember the actor's name. I can't remember any of the actors' name. Only Emilia Clarke, the one who plays Han Solo's love interest. The actor who played Han Solo vaguely looks like Harrison Ford. But he's not Harrison Ford, you know that. But it didn't bother me that much because he was a good actor. The story was pretty good. It was visually appealing. It had a cast that I think was great for a Star Wars movie. The guy who plays Lando Calrissian, in my opinion, he was spot on. He nailed Lando like no other. I think Solo was a fun film. I don't think it's the best Star Wars movie by any means necessary. I think it's better than The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and I think it's up there. It's definitely up there. It's a good Star Wars movie. It's worth a watch. It's not filled with SJW propaganda, and I am anti-SJW. Solo a Star Wars story. If it's still in theaters where you're at, go watch it in theaters. It deserves to be seen on the big screen. And if not, if you really just want to do that, then I guess I don't advocate it, but watch it illegally or just wait till the DVD comes out. But I would suggest, even if you don't buy any snacks or anything, just watch the movie in theaters, because I think you will regret it later. Alright guys, Logan from What's It To Ya, have a good one.